On this video, I'd like to go over a few different things. First off, I'd like to start with labeling. I'd like to identify that, I've got my images open in Adobe Bridge. I want to go up to Label, and you're going to notice a few different options here. And I recommend that you guys go through this and you can reset and change these ratings and based upon your particular desires. But, generally I like to use select. The red one is kind of like my main option, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to select this particular image. You notice that I can also do the quick key command. I'll go back up there to labels, and then so it's going to be command 6, and then so on for these different ones. You're going to notice those quick key commands. I like to point out those quick key commands to help you guys move fluently across the application without having to go back up to labels and identifying where that was located. So moving on from there, I'm going to go to Command R, or I'm going to go to the aperture feature to launch this into Adobe Camera Raw. Now that I've got my image selected, I'm going to launch that. And once I'm in here, I'd like to note that generally I've just got one image open. I'm going to go through in another video how to open multiple images and work on those at the same time. So moving over here, once again, I recommend that you guys get in the habit of going through this basic procedure the same way. I'm going to start up here. You can go into these different settings and see which one works. I'll just stick with Adobe Color for right now. White balance, I'll just go ahead and leave that for the time being as shot. And I'm going to get another video going where I'll show you guys how to select that. So now moving into this basic area down here, I'll probably go into auto. Let's just see what that does. So it warms it up in a nice way, so maybe I'll just stick with that. And then I want to also point that you can use this gray point selector over here to select on a particular area. If you want to go ahead and change that color, and notice I'm just picking different areas. And I can always go back. Right now it's a custom. I can go back to auto and it'll auto select that for me, and that gives me a nice warm tone. So those are going to be conducted through temperature and tint. So moving on to these other settings down here, I'm going to go back up to edit. So within edit, if I hit auto, it's going to go ahead and populate those different global settings. What it's going to do is lighten up the background, so on and so forth. And you can see those settings over in this area right here. Some of those I don't like, so I want to manually control those. I want it a little darker, so I want to go ahead and bring down that background. I do prefer that over the auto. In doing this, I want to present the student with the option of auto does things according to its specifications, so you need to go back and override it. I think this is incredibly important to learn how to manage these different tools. While it might help, it won't actually get you where you want. It may show you some different things that you weren't thinking about. And then in addition to that, overall, I think it looks pretty good. I might darken it a little bit more. And this, I want to stress once again, is going to be in the histogram. You're looking at that. It's giving me all my different settings from that particular image. And one other thing I want to point out is this little option right here. If you open this up, it's going to give you all these different options that are presets, which means that they are just basically, presets based upon your raw data. And if you go in here, you can open up several more of these, and it gives you more and more and more options, as you go through these other ones here. Anywhere you see an arrow, you can drop that down and open it up, and it gives you different color choices. A lot of options here. Careful what you do with them. Maybe there's a few that you like to work with. I'm just going to close all these up. Generally, I don't go into these unless I'm lost with an image and can't figure out which way to go with the color. So I'm just going to leave that. There's a few options up here in terms of the amount, so you'll have a slider if you do select one of these. I'm going to go back. I do prefer working in the global settings preferences here. And I'm just going to bring down the whites maybe a touch in the highlight area there. I'm just going to do one more localized setting for the sake of doing it. I'm actually going to warm this up just a touch more. I do prefer that, you know, it's closer to what I actually recall as the color of that particular situation. I'm going to take down, I'll bring the magenta back up. And I want to note that if you use the P key, you can see the before, and hit the P key again, you see the after. So it's really good to go through that. The next step is an incredibly important one, and that's what this whole video is about. It's about going over to this little option over here, clicking on it, and then going up to this little icon, clicking on it, and it gives you a snapshot. This is one of the most powerful aspects. You'll find this in Lightroom as well. Once again, Lightroom utilizes the Adobe Camera Raw engine underneath and how it works. So what we're doing is we're just using the Adobe Camera Raw application basically as standalone at this particular point. I like to get into the habit of using, I like to do it in versions. So I do V1, I'll hit OK, and then what I want to do is go back to the global edit palette up here. That's Shift E. And let's just say I want to do one really dark. And I want to make a few different changes. You know, I just want to do these. I want to add a lot of contrast. I'm not sure what I want, so I want to kind of play with that. We'll add a bunch of saturation and vibrancy. Yellows, so I'll take those down. And then I'll go back over to this little snapshot. Once again, go up to this little icon up here. We'll call this one V2. And in doing so, I have the options of just hovering over or clicking on it. My computer is acting a little slow right now. But generally, if you hover over them, it'll give you a preview of what's going on with that particular snapshot. So if I click on number 2, it's, you know, as I go into this later on, you can create, I think, up to 99 of these snapshots, and I recommend that you do these frequently if you're working on your images and editing the images. This is super important. One of the best ways to work. Allows you the option of like, where was I? I was here. I like that one. It looks, you know, like a good edit, and I'm going to stick with it. So that concludes this particular video.